Shoot, I should have changed this on D Live to news, but I'll go in and edit it. Okay, so I'm streaming on YouTube and D Live because I really want to go over this. So I'm not going to be looking at chat. This came out, I think, 3 days ago? You guys, check this out. This is really, really important. The title of this article is When a DNA Test Says You're a Younger Man Who Lives 5,000 miles away. After a bone marrow transplant, a man with leukemia found that his donor's DNA traveled to unexpected parts of his body. A crime lab is now studying the case. 3 months after his bone marrow transplant, Chris Long of Reno, Nevada, learned that his DNA in his blood had changed. It had all been replaced by the DNA of his donor, a German man he had exchanged just a handful of messages with. He'd been encouraged to test his blood by a colleague at the sheriff's office where he had worked. She had inklings that this might happen. It's the goal of the procedure, after all. Weak blood is replaced by healthy blood, and with it, the DNA it contains. But 4 years after his life-saving procedure, it was not only Mr. Long's blood that was affected. Swabs of his lips and cheeks contained his DNA, but also that of his donor. Are you all getting this? This man has a bone marrow transplant, and he now has 2 different types of DNA. Do you know how? Oh my God, you guys, this is so crazy. Okay, back onto the article. I'll leave my comments after I'm done. This is just freaking crazy. Okay, so where am I at? Even more blah 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 blah. Okay, so even more surprising to Mr. Long and other colleagues at the crime lab, all of the DNA in his semen belonged to his donor. Let me repeat that. Even more surprising to Mr. Long and other colleagues at the crime lab, all of the DNA in his semen belonged to his donor. He said, I thought that it was pretty incredible that I can disappear and someone else can appear. Mr. Long had become a chimera, the technical term for the rare person with 2 sets of DNA. The word takes its name from a fire-breathing creature in Greek mythology composed of lion, goat, and serpent parts. Wow. Doctors and forensic scientists have long known that certain medical procedures turn people into chimeras, but where exactly a donor's DNA shows up beyond blood has rarely been studied with criminal applications in mind. Tens of thousands of people get bone marrow transplants every year for blood cancers and other blood diseases, including leukemia, lymphoma, and sickle cell anemia. Though it's unlikely that any of them would end up as the perpetrator or victim of a crime, the idea that they could intrigued Mr. Long's colleagues at the Washoe County Sheriff's Department, who have been using their totally innocent colleague in IT as a bit of human guinea pig. I guess this is a picture of Mr. Long. Let's zoom in so y'all can see this guy here. Hi, Mr. Long. So you're now 2 people, huh? Crazy, crazy, crazy. Chris Long agreed to serve as a guinea pig for his colleagues' experiment to help them understand how a bone marrow transplant could confuse a criminal investigation. Where will the DNA go? The implications of Mr. Long's case, which was presented at an international forensic science conference in September, have now captured the interest of DNA analysts far beyond Nevada. The average doctor does not need to know where a donor's DNA will present itself within a patient. That's because this type of chimerism is not likely to be harmful, nor should it change a person. Their brain and their personality should remain the same. But it can change their semen. That's just crazy. Okay, said Andrew somebody, the medical director of the inpatient blood and marrow transplant unit at Stanford University. He added that patients also sometimes ask him what it means for a man to have a woman's chromosomes in their bloodstream or vice versa. It doesn't matter, he said. It doesn't matter. But for a forensic scientist, it's a different story. I would think it would matter. I mean, it changed his semen. Are you kidding me? The assumption among criminal investigators as they gather DNA evidence from a crime scene is that each victim and each perpetrator leaves behind a single identifying code, not two, including that of a fellow who is 10 years younger and lives thousands of miles away. And so Renee Romero, who ran the crime lab at Washoe County Sheriff's Office, saw an opportunity when her friend and colleague told her that his doctor had found a suitable match on a donor website and he would be undergoing a bone marrow transplant. We need to swab the heck out of you before you have this procedure to see how this DNA takes over your body, she recalled telling him. Mr. Long agreed. He welcomed an intriguing distraction from his diagnosis of acute myeloid leukemia and something else, syndrome, both of which impaired the production of healthy blood cells. At the time, he said, I didn't even know if I would live. Semen results. Check that out. For years after the bone marrow transplant, Mr. Long's semen contained 100% of his donor's DNA. 100%. It completely changed his semen. All he had was a bone marrow transplant. 4 years later, with Mr. Long in remission and back at work, Miss Romero's experiment persisted, aided by her crime lab colleagues. Within 4 months of the procedure, Mr. Long's blood had been replaced by his donor's blood. So not only is his semen 100% his donor's, his blood is now replaced by his donor's blood. Swabs collected from his lip, cheek, and tongue showed that these also contain his donor's DNA, with the percentages rising and falling over the years. Of the samples collected, only his chest and head hair, were unaffected. So this is just after 4 years. The donor's DNA is now in his blood and 100% in his semen, but so they sampled swabs from his lip, cheek, and tongue that showed his donor's DNA. Okay. Swabs collected from his lip, cheek, and tongue. But they didn't say that his chest and head hair, they didn't say that they sampled that. That's weird. The most unexpected part was that 4 years after the procedure, the DNA in his semen had been entirely replaced by his donors. That's some creepy ass shit, you guys. We were kind of shocked that Chris was no longer present at all. But I thought they just said that his chest and head hair were unaffected. Okay, said Darby Steinmetz, a criminalist at Washoe County Sheriff's Office. If another patient responded similarly to a transplant and that person went on to commit a crime, it could mislead investigators. Think of how many people. Oh my gosh, that's scary. And it has misled them, Miss Clinton learned once she began to actually research it. Chimeranism. That's when DNA actually changes on a person. In 2004, investigators in Alaska uploaded a DNA profile extracted from semen to a criminal DNA database. It matched a potential suspect, but there was a problem. The man had been in prison at the time of the assault. It turned out that he had received a bone marrow transplant. The donor, which was his brother, was eventually convicted. Wow. Abhirami Chidambaram, who was presented the Alaska case in 2005 when she worked for the Alaska State Crime Detection Laboratory in Anchorage, said she had heard about another disconcerting scenario since then. It involved police investigators who were skeptical of an assault, sexual assault victim's account because she said there had been one attacker, though DNA analysis showed two. Eventually, the police determined that the second profile had come from her bone marrow donor. Oh, this is just getting more creepy. Similar scenarios could also create confusion around a victim's identity, and in fact, it has. What's up with all these weird names? Said Yang Ben. Yang Ben didn't say that, I'm just saying it. A visiting research scholar at the University of North Texas Center for Human Identification. In 2008, he was trying to identify the victim of a traffic accident for the National Forensic Service in South Korea. Blood showed that the individual was female. Here we go, guys. Blood showed the individual was female, but the body appeared to be male, which was confirmed by DNA in a kidney, but not in the spleen or the lung, which contained male and female DNA. Do you all know what this means? Like, is this stuff sinking in? This is exactly what they want. And I shouldn't even have to say who they are. Eventually, he figured out that the victim had received a bone marrow transplant from his daughter. Oh my God, you guys. The Washoe County Sheriff's Office, blah, blah, blah. I'm not reading that. The specifics of Mr. Long's situation raise an inevitable question. What happens if he has a baby? Would he pass on the genes of his German donor or his own to future offspring? Because 100% of his semen is now his German donor's, all due to a bone marrow transplant. 100% of his semen. In this case, the answer will remain untested because Mr. Long had a vasectomy after his second child was born, which, we all know those can be reversed. So he's already a guinea pig. So I would say more than likely they're going to have him have that reversed. Have fun with that. But what about everyone else? 3 bone marrow transplant experts who were surveyed agreed that it was an intriguing question. They also agreed that passing on someone else's genes as a result of a transplant like Mr. Long's was impossible. You would think, right? There shouldn't be any way for someone to father someone else's child. That's not to say that other forms of chimerism haven't created comparably confusing scenarios. Fraternal twins sometimes acquire each other's DNA in the womb. And what this means is, like, okay, if a woman has intercourse with 2 different men close together, she can actually have twins, but each child has a different father. That's what that means. And yes, it has happened. In at least one case that led to unfounded fears of infidelity when a man's child did not seem to be his. In another case, a mother nearly lost custody of her children after a DNA test. But a donor's blood cells should not be able to create new sperm cells. The doctor that treated Mr. Long agreed that he believed it was Mr. Long's vasectomy that explained how his semen came to contain his donor's DNA. Well, if that's the case, then how did it show up in his blood? How did it show up in his cheek? And how did it show up in his two other tests? But it was unfound in his hair and chest hair. The forensic scientists involved say they plan to investigate it further. Well, I would hope so. So, since he had a vasectomy, that's how they're saying that his sperm was 100% his donor's. I don't think so. It just makes no sense. I mean, I could see where they would think that, but why is it showing up in his blood and other places? What's their excuse for that, right? Everyone who has reviewed Mr. Long's case agrees on one thing. He is a living, breathing case study of one, and it's impossible to say how many other people respond to bone marrow transplants the same way he did. It's simply one of those curious possibilities that forensic analysts may want to consider when DNA results are not adding up. For his part, Mr. Long said he hopes to meet his donor during an upcoming trip to Germany and to thank him in person for saving his life. Okay. So, let's go to the chat here real quick. What's up, guys? That is insane. This is absolutely crazy. Okay, so he has a bone marrow transplant, shows up in his blood, 100% of his semen in his cheek and wherever else that they swabbed. This is absolutely crazy. This is science fiction becoming real life, you all. And this is exactly what they want. So, what if a man has a woman's bone marrow? I mean, would that even be possible? Would it even be able to match if it was a different sex? Like, I need to read up on this further to see if that's even possible. Like, what are the cases for bone marrow? Does it have to be biologically the same sex? I don't know. Something to look into, most definitely. But this is absolutely crazy. All right, let's see who we've got in the chat here. Now, I don't know if it's working on YouTube. I know that I clicked it. I do see that it's working on DLive. Hey, Karen. Hey, Annie, Miranda, Annie, Tina, Suzette, Raquel, April, Lovable Rogue. Exactly, April. Oh my gosh. Good. Imagine how many unsolved crimes this could lead to. Well, not only that, but think of how many people that have been falsely accused just because they had a bone marrow transplant. And my goodness, what if this leads criminals to commit crimes because they had bone marrow transplants? Think about this. So, okay, I'm going to go get a bone marrow transplant. Okay. In 4 years or more, I know that my DNA is going to be changed. So I'm going to commit a crime knowing that my DNA is not going to show up, somebody else's is, right? Absolutely insane. Lovable Rogue, what's going on? It blew my mind, and I was not feeling well enough yesterday to even touch on it. So, BB Truth, what's going on? YouTube in the crappie yet? I don't know. I was on it earlier. Dan Bon Daisy, what's going on? Pyramid 7, good to see you. The only change in my semen that I'd consider is maybe, oh my god, I'm not even reading that. Pyramid 7, you are a goober. It has screwed up the DNA database. Think of how many scientists are going to see this. Like, textbooks are going to have to be changed. Think of how much this is going to change all over across the board. Wrongfully convicted, yes. After all these years of us being led to believe the impossible is possible. And you know what? Um, people always say, oh, conspiracy theories, this and that. You know what? You guys have no idea how deep. Yes, I do love you, Pyramid 7. You all have no idea how deep this goes. Like, I think somebody asked me, forgive me, please, I can't remember who, the other day in chat, I mentioned Cain and Abel. Think about Cain and Abel when you think about this, about the Chimerian twins. Think about that for a second. And think of Cain and think of serpent seed. And I may do just a full-on session about my opinions on that. I don't know if they'll change textbooks or not. I mean, you would think they would have to because it's now a possibility for one person's DNA to be changed. Now, they're saying that this man's semen was changed for the simple fact that he had a vasectomy because his sperm was dead. No, 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 no. One's DNA should not be able to be changed. That's the whole thing. It should not be physically possible. Okay, you guys? It should not be able to happen. And this is exactly what they want to happen. This is right on their list, you guys. What's up, Chad? It is craziness, Karen. Okay, so Annie Bow says, I was just telling my hubby this, and he just said someone put their dog's DNA in to be tested and it came back human. Are you kidding me? That's is that even physically possible? Oh my God. I think what is it? Hold on, let me find the verse. Think about this, guys. Let me find it real quick. Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm going to do a little bit of screen sharing, and then this will be a prequel to what I want to talk to you all about. Let's find it. Okay, my gosh. La la la. All right, I'm going to share my screen, and then I'm going to end this because I don't want this to be too long. Okay, so I just did a Google search, and I was going to look up the Genesis Bible verse that talks about giants, right? And look what came up. Okay, so I typed in Genesis, and there were giants in those days. And look what came up on Wikipedia. Nephilim. Nephilim. Nephilim were the offspring of the, quote, sons of God and, quote, the daughters of men before the deluge, according to Genesis 6, 1 through 4. All right? Now, if you all do not know, when it talks about Satan falling from heaven, he was casted out of heaven. Not permanently right now because he still goes back and forth, but when he fell, a third of the angels chose to fall with him. Okay? The Nephilim were the offspring of the sons of God and the daughters of men before the deluge, according to Genesis 6, 1 through 4. A similar or identical biblical Hebrew term read as Nephilim by some scholars or as the word fallen by others. Let's see what Wikipedia says. Now, I don't like to quote Wikipedia for the simple fact is anybody can edit this. but I'm just going to see what it says. All right, so this is quoting Genesis 6 1 through 4. It's not the King James Version, but I'll go ahead and read it. When people began to multiply on the face of the ground, and daughters were born to them, the sons of God, which are the fallen angels, saw that they were fair, and they took wives for themselves of all that they chose. Then the Lord said, My spirit shall not abide in mortals forever, for they are flesh. Their days shall be 120 years. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days. Now, the King James Version says, and there were giants in those days. The King James Version said that the fallen came into the daughters of men and created a new race, Nephilim, and there were giants in those days. Okay? And also afterward, when the sons of God went into the daughters of humans, were born children to them. These were the heroes that were of the old, warriors of the renown. All right, so let me just pull up just so I can tell you. Right there. It's KJV, because that's what I'm used to reading. All right. Genesis 6 1 through 4. And it came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose. And the Lord said, okay, look, there were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that. When the sons of God came into the daughters of men, and they bare children, the same became mighty men, which were of old, men of renown. And there's somewhere else it says that they created a new race, and then there were giants in those days. I thought it was Genesis 3. Okay, hold on, let's see. So, let's see. Oh, look, January 25th. Okay, 6 1 through 4. Oh, stop it. Where does it actually say Nephilim? Okay, so I could being a new race. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God went into the daughters of humans and had children by them. And then the KJV says there were giants in those days, creating a new race. Just saying, guys, this is some deep stuff. All right, let's go back to StreamYard, see what we're doing. Hey, Tamara. Much love, sweetheart. Belinda, Cartoon Ball. Yeah, I just read that article, Cartoon Ball. That's how crazy. Yup, yup, yup. Susan McCormick. Oh yeah, I've listened to Steve Quell. Yes. It's only going to get worse. I completely agree, Karen. It's only going to get worse, but bad has already happened. And like a woman in labor pains, no stopping that. Yep, 100%. DNA corruption and pre-Noah. Yep. Also, Nimrod became. And so it states that the end days will be like the days of Noah and after that. So, all right, guys. I'm going to go ahead and end this stream because I don't want to really get off topic, but I will try to go live again here in a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and check YouTube to make sure it's on YouTube. Okay, so I just pulled up D-Lab. Thanks, everybody, for coming up, and I don't know how good it's working, but yeah, it's crazy. All right, guys, much love. I'll try to go live again later with some very, very interesting topics. Nothing to do with this kind of stuff, but I have a few things I want to state, and I need you all to listen very closely. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and get off here. Much love. God bless.